Speaking on the JW History Discussion Series, episode 16, the Disfellowshipping Deception, when the Watchtower turned discipline into social death. In episode 15, I exposed how the Watchtower turned medical crisis into a loyalty test through the blood doctrine. In this episode, 16, I now move into relational control, where discipline becomes enforced isolation. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society teaches that cutting people off completely is an act of love. Christ restored sinners. Watchtower removes them. And one of the big things that come out of the Australian Royal Commission viewers was the cruelty of the shunning policy. When Watchtower transformed biblical discipline into enforced social separation, using disfellowshipping and shunning to control behaviour, suppress dissent, and maintain organisational authority, they proved themselves to be one of the most cruelest religious organisations on the planet. Now, teaching point number one, viewers. Biblical discipline was restorative, not isolating. In the Testament, correction aimed to bring a person back, to erase them socially. But the Watchtower redefined discipline into total relational cut-offs. You see correction as restoration, return, reconciliation. You experience Watchtower's discipline as isolation, silence, exclusion. You lose relational connection instantly. Separation, shock, dislocation. And this leads to discipline that removes support instead of restoring the person. Teaching point number two, viewers. Watchtower enforced shunning as a loyalty test. Members are required to limit or eliminate contact, even with close family members, to demonstrate obedience to the cult. And this turns relationships into conditional ties governed by the organisation's policies and status. You face a disfellowship family member, you have conflict, pain, and division. You follow Watchtower's instruction. You withdraw, you distance, you comply. You override natural bonds, and this causes a suppression and obedience to an evil cult and loss. Remember, the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and this is one of his great destructive moves. So this results in families being divided, not by wrongdoing alone, but by enforced policy. So in a lot of cases, there was no need for this. Teaching point number three, viewers. True Christianity reflects mercy, truth, and restoration. Christ engaged with sinners, corrected them, and restored them. But the Watchtower uses exclusion as a control mechanism to reinforce authority and discourage questioning. You observe Christ's approach, which is mercy, engagement, restoration. You observe the Watchtowers and you see enforcement, avoidance, fear, control to separate. Now, if you compare both models, you see a contrast, exposure, and clarity. And you have to decide, am I going to be a shunnist, or am I going to be a unifier? Am I going to be a divider of love, loyalty, and family? Or am I going to be an encourager and an inspirer of love, loyalty, forgiveness, grace, mercy, and family? because this leaves the believer deciding whether discipline reflects Christ's character or institutional cult controlism. So here's a practical example, a scenario, viewers. A Jehovah Witness is disfellowshipped. Overnight, friends stop speaking. Family contact is restricted. Conversations cease. The individual becomes socially invisible with their former community. The sudden isolation creates shock, anxiety, and identity disruption. The Jehovah Witness may feel cut off not only from community but also from God, given what's happening, the enormity of it all, as discipline is framed around divine judgment. And then daily life changes. No greetings, no conversations, no normal interaction within the social structure. That part of life is cut off. So, in reflection, viewers, does cutting someone off completely reflect Christ's method of restoration, or cult, organizational, institutionalism, enforcement? Let's do a resistance check. Are you avoiding contact with someone because Scripture clearly commands it, or because the watchtower requires it? Have you examined whether total shunning aligns with Christ's actions? Is this discipline or fear of disobedience? Now we'll do a root cause check. Do you believe maintaining organisational purity requires rational isolation? Are you afraid of consequences if you show compassion? Have you accepted a system where authority defines how you treat people? Well, if so, let's take some immediate action. Read Luke 15, Matthew 18:10-14, and Galatians 6:1 without any watchtower commentary, and write one sentence answering this question. Does true discipline, Christian discipline, isolate or restore? Before I close, viewers, would you please press like, subscribe, and comment, share the video for some encouragement for me? And here's the proverb. Better a hand that lifts the fallen in mercy than the him out and calls it love. Viewers, if the watchtower can redefine discipline into social disappearance, ghosting, then controllers move beyond doctrine into relationships themselves. Correction begins when the believer chooses restoration over fear and truth over institutionalized cultism, enforced silence and separation. In episode 17, viewers, we're going to look at the new light deception, when the watchtower justified contradictions as progressive truth, and I'll examine how changing doctrine is framed as spiritual advancement rather than error. I'm Dr. J.W. AYOUB. I'll see you in episode 16, the new light deception, when the watchtower justified contradictions as progressive truth. Encourage me, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.